Are they getting divorced? Is the Pelosi-Obama political honeymoon over? Who would have guessed that the two Democratic leaders so cozy over Obamacare would have such a very public spat? Liberal Democrats, led by leader Nancy Pelosi, openly outraged to President Obama over that spending bill which passed the House. It got so wicked last night that President Obama was even making personal phone calls to Leader Pelosi's Democratic flock in the House. You can bet she didn't like that one. And our first guest says Leader Pelosi is now like a tiger in a corner. And that's not all. Before voting, Republican Representative Schock watching on the record, and while watching, he was tweeting. Pelosi calls Cromnibus a moral hazard, ransom, blackmail. Sounds like Obamacare to me, except one big difference. We know what's in it. And Congressman Schock joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta. Good to be with you.
Wow, I'm glad you were watching on the record last night. Glad to know you're on social media tweeting while you do. We invite everybody to do that. But so your thoughts last night about what went down? Seems like there's a little problem within the Democratic Party last night.
Well, I guess we must be doing something right. We have a bill on the floor that my Democratic friends on the other side of the aisle were coming up to me saying, you won't believe it. I just had Pelosi come over and tell me I've got to vote no, and I just got a call from Vice President Biden asking me to vote yes. And in the 6 years in Congress that I've been there, I've never seen something like this, where you have the White House, both the president and the vice president, actively calling House members, asking them to vote for a bill. And then you had Nancy Pelosi saying vote against the bill. And then you had Steny Hoyer, the minority whip, saying vote for the bill. So even Leader Pelosi and Minority Whip Hoyer were on different sides of the aisle. So are different sides of this issue. So, you know, what we really have is Nancy Pelosi, the Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, people who are at the outer edge of the far left wing of the Democratic Party, who simply can't believe the fact that the voters spoke against them, elected Republicans instead of Democrats, and rejected their policies. And so they're trying to blow the place up, and they really wanted to shut the place down because there were some provisions of the bill they just didn't like.
Was it that they didn't like the provisions, or in the case of Senator Elizabeth Warren, is that at the last minute in the bill about government spending, suddenly what was jammed into it was something about protecting banks, which I thought is because it was an issue that was unrelated to spending, and she didn't like it to begin with, but that did it really belong in a spending bill, what in terms of appropriation bills about funding the government?
Well, when we go through the appropriation process, as both the House and the Senate are supposed to, every member of Congress in the House is offered the opportunity to offer what we call appropriation riders, which say you can't spend money on certain things. It's a way to impact policy. And the House representatives passed 7 different appropriation bills last year. The Senate didn't pass a single appropriation bill. They rejected their ability to do so.
I guess, Congressman, the thing that I don't like is, I mean, look, a lot of those riders, those amendments, those are special deals for special people. I mean, that's the problem. That's why they appear to me. You know, they come in at the last minute, and I certainly don't want to shut down the government, but they sort of do get sneaked in.
Well, you know, first of all, I think it's kind of funny that the Democrats are the ones saying that we snuck something in when it was in the light of day. People were allowed to read the bill, which is why they were able to object to it before they voted on it. That's in sharp contrast to when I was in the minority and Nancy Pelosi ran the place and we didn't get to read the bills. I vividly remember her saying, we got to pass bills to find out what's in it. To your point, though, about these riders, that's what the appropriation process is all about. And what I would say, with all due respect to Elizabeth Warren and the senators who disagree with us, is you should have gone through the appropriation process. You should have done the appropriation bills, and then we could have conferenced them before the election, so we wouldn't be at this end of the hour situation that we're in. My hope next year, Greta, is that not only will the House pass appropriation bills and work its will, but hopefully with the new Senate leadership, the Senate will pass appropriation bills, and we won't be in the final hours like we were this year.
And again, and the interesting thing is you guys all set the deadline, so you know when to get started on your work so that we don't rush up against the line, but hold your breath waiting on that one. Anyway, Congressman, thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thanks, Greta. Always good to be with you.
So where exactly does the spending bill stand